The peaceful transfer of power is one of the most fundamental principles of American democracy. As much as any other principle, it is what distinguishes our system of government from monarchy or tyranny. Today at the United States Capitol, I will perform my constitutional duty as Vice President of the United States to certify the results of the 2024 election. This duty is a sacred obligation, one I will uphold, guided by love of country, loyalty to our Constitution, and my unwavering faith in the American people. As we have seen, our democracy can be fragile, and it is up to then each one of us to stand up for our most cherished principles and to make sure that in America, our government always.
Hi, everybody. Today is January 6th, and we will be certifying President Trump's election this afternoon. And I am so excited. This is a day I've been waiting for 4 years. And I spoke with President Trump just this morning, a little bit ago, and he's excited for Congress to certify the election. And I am so honored to be a part of this. It's going to be a great historic day. And we're still getting snow here. It's snowing right now. And we're going to get snow continuing throughout the day. But I have to tell you, come hell or high water, or snowstorm or blizzard or whatever it is, we will certify President Trump's election today. And we cannot wait to inaugurate him on January 20th.
Boy. Happy January 6th anniversary, guys. Okay. On this January 6th, 2025, this is probably the best January 6th ever because it is the day that Kamala Harris will certify the election, basically solidifying Trump's historic landslide victory over her in the 2024 election just 4 years after the January 6th protests that the mainstream liberal media and the Democrats have been boo-hoo whining and crying about ever since then, okay? And we got to talk about the outrage here from the mainstream liberal media. They're mad. They're upset, right? They're coping and seething over the fact that Trump wasn't punished for what happened on January 6th. And in fact, the effort to punish Trump on January 6th may have backfired, right? This is what they are admitting in their coping session over Trump becoming their president again. And they are pointing fingers, right? They're now blaming Merrick Garland, right? They're saying, Merrick Garland, you didn't do your job. Your job was to prevent Trump from becoming president again, to lock him up, and you didn't do it, right? So they're pointing fingers.
Today, Congress is certifying the 2024 election results in the major step that paves the way for the president-elect Donald Trump to return to the White House. And Justice Department officials are taking stock of the now failed effort to prosecute Donald Trump for obstructing the same official process 4 years ago today. With a final report on the investigation expected to be released soon, critics are starting to point the finger in a lot of directions, including at Attorney General Merrick Garland and decisions he made after the insurrection and about the investigation. Let's get over to CNN's Evan Perez. He's got more on this exclusive report. Tell us what you've learned.
Well, Kate, you know, what critics would call the lost year inside the Justice Department, they say it was something that they had to do. They had to spend a lot of time looking into every single possible corner to see whether there was more evidence to tie Donald Trump to the violence we saw that day. One of the things they did find was there was this tip that developed in about June of 2021 that seemed to indicate that there was some kind of meeting between Trump or someone very close to him and members of the Proud Boys. These are the people who were behind some of the worst violence on January 6th. And so they spent months looking into that. They looked into the infamous Willard Room, where people were trying to help overturn the election results. They also looked into possible financial ties. All of that took about a year. And so when you heard from Attorney General Merrick Garland about a year later, on the anniversary of the attack, here's the words he said that gave people hope about what this investigation was about.
The actions we have taken thus far will not be our last. The Justice Department remains committed to holding all January 6 perpetrators at any level accountable under law, whether they were present that day or were otherwise criminally responsible for the assault on our democracy.
And when those words that the Attorney General said really gave people hope that they, at least the critics of Donald Trump, they believed that he was, in the end, going to be held accountable. Kate, what people didn't realize, of course, was that there was a calendar that was expiring and expired very rapidly, especially when Donald Trump became the inevitable nominee for the Republican Party. One critic I talked to, someone who was involved in the investigation early on, said they wasted time. They were not strategic. It was a whole year of nothing. And they said what the investigation ended up doing was boosting Trump during that primary, the Republican primary. Of course,
it's pretty hilarious. Okay, Trump posted this picture of the crowd January 6th 4 years ago. Hilarious stuff. So without further ado, I want to play a couple clips here showing how mad the mainstream liberal media is. Jim Acosta of CNN is essentially demanding that Trump give an apology, that he apologize for what happened on January 6th.
This remains an evenly divided country, and no one, to paraphrase William F. Buckley, no one is held hostage to the results of the last election other than what the Constitution tells us. And so we are still a divided nation. And yes, Donald Trump won despite January 6th, but that half the nation was okay with that, half the nation not okay with that. The debate continues in full.
Brad, is it time for Donald Trump to apologize for what took place 4 years ago?
I wouldn't expect Donald Trump would apologize. I think nor do I expect Democrats to apologize for trying to undo his presidency by all legal and extra legal means after that.
Come on, Brad. Come on.
No, Jim, look at our own polling. Look at CNN's own exit polling. Voters who said they voted on democracy were evenly split between Democrats and Republicans. January 6th was a dark day in the history of our country. Donald Trump bears a lot of responsibility for that. It's something that should stain his legacy forever. However, voters, they punished him for it. That's why he was behind Ron DeSantis by 20 points until Alvin Bragg indicted him. And once voters decided that Democrats were determined to prevent Donald Trump from being elected by any extra legal means, they decided maybe this wasn't as clear.
I mean, shouldn't your party have just rejected him, just flat out rejected him, from Kevin McCarthy to Mitch McConnell to the whole lot of them? How could your party let him be the nominee again? Isn't that the question?
Watch what Kevin McCarthy and Mitch McConnell said in the aftermath of that. They absolutely did condemn him. Mitch McConnell was still condemning him months afterward on the floor. Yeah. Nancy Pelosi decided to use January 6th for partisan gain, though. She appointed.
That's not true,
she
Brad.
refused to let Kevin McCarthy appoint Republicans to the committee. She didn't let Republicans hire staff to the January 6th Oversight Committee. They didn't allow cross-examination.
The January 6th committee had the Republican of all Republicans, Liz Cheney, on
Liz Cheney was not. She was not
booted out of your party. I mean,
she wasn't appointed by her conference like
Dick
every
Cheney's
other
daughter.
committee. She wasn't appointed by the Republican conference.
Good Republican.
Yeah, so you see that, you heard that. Jim Acosta fuming, losing his mind, raging over the fact that Trump is going to be his president again. I love it. I absolutely love it. This is the best January 6th ever already, okay? Because these propagandists and the mainstream liberal media, they can't help themselves. They can't just take a day off from Trump derangement and just cover the certification of the election from a neutral perspective, right? Just give straight coverage, straight commentary on it, and that's it. No. They have to show you how upset they are about all of this, right? The fact that Trump is becoming president again, despite the political persecutions from the Democrats, despite the efforts from the mainstream liberal media to gaslight the American people, to lie about Trump. All these things did not stop Trump from becoming president again. And this is what they're actually really mad about. And they just can't help but to show it on national television.
Scott, in a political sense, is it how we got here? Is interesting, and you can see the evolution. You can play all the sound bites from the days after when you heard Republicans blaming Donald Trump, some being short of saying he should be impeached, saying he should be held accountable. And 4 years later, we are here. It is a stunning political comeback attributed to how Trump played it afterward, how Democrats played it afterward, or something else?
Well, I think it's some mixture of everything. But to me, the big message is that in the United States, the people decide. And because of the disastrous 4 years that came after Donald Trump, the people decided to return Donald Trump to power. And that's fundamentally what happened. They looked at what happened on January the 6th. They looked at all the things Democrats claimed about Donald Trump, and they also analyzed every single decision that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris made, and they delivered Donald Trump a convincing victory 4 years later.
It is tough, though, Scott, because when you say the people decide, that's what people tried to make sure didn't happen on January 6th, was allowing the people to decide.
The machinery turned. It was a terrible...
The lack of acknowledgement of how bad it was in the aftermath.
I mean, I think a great many people have acknowledged it, but also what happened that day. The machinery turned. Mm-hmm. Joe Biden became the president. He had one of the worst terms of any U.S. president, and then the people scrambled back to Donald Trump. That is the history of what happened.
Yeah, so you can see here, this CNN anchor, she's mad, she's upset, she's fuming over the fact that people weren't mad enough about what happened on January 6th. Again, these people really believe that January 6th was the worst day ever, right? Worse than 9/11, okay? This is what they believe. But the reality is that the American people, one, do not believe that. Okay, especially considering the information that has come out about January 6th after the fact. Everybody can see that January 6th was a protest that got out of control. That's what January 6th was. January 6th was not an insurrection. Okay, it was not the death of democracy. It was not any of these things. Okay, it was a protest that got out of control. Now, the sad reality for Democrats in the liberal media is that, as Scott Jennings is bringing up here, the next 4 years of Joe Biden and how terrible it was really showed people that, hey, you know what? I may not like what happened on January 6th, but it wasn't that big of a deal compared to the last 4 years of disaster under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And that is just the reality of the situation. And the media and the Democrats, they're upset, they're mad that people care more about their actual lived experience, inflation, crime, the border, all things that Democrats deny, by the way, right? They care more about that than the propaganda about January 6th from Democrats in the liberal media. Remember, nobody watched the January 6th Hollywood special in Congress, okay? Instead of focusing on how to help the American people with the core issues, right? Like, for example, closing the border and things like that. No. Democrats focused on trying to make a spectacle out of January 6th and crying about it for 4 years straight and thinking that people are going to vote based off that, right? When January 6th did not affect a vast majority of people's lives, right? Most people were not affected by what happened on January 6th. So at some point, people can only care so much about it, even if you disagree with what happened that day. People can only care so much about it considering how the policies of the Biden administration have not been good for the American people. That's it. That's just what's happening here. And again, these people just can't accept the truth that they have to let January 6th go, that people don't care that much.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I look at today, Donald Trump is inheriting one of the best economies that a president has inherited in a very long period of time.
I don't want to hear that bullshit. That's the narrative that is going to come out of the mainstream liberal media because they know that Trump's economy is probably going to be great, right? And if Trump's economy is great, they'll say, well, it was Biden, right? This is Biden's economy, okay? This is what they'll say. So they're already pushing this. But I don't want to hear it, right? I don't want to hear it.
If you look at the fact that something like net migration at the border is lower than it was even before Donald Trump took office. If you want to look at the stock market, you're looking at the stock market right now.
I'm
not even finished running it down yet. This is the first time.
The border needs to be secured further, and this number can be accurate.
But this is the first time in dozens of years that a president has actually inherited a government where we don't have soldiers overseas in active combat zones. So, I mean, let's actually look at where we are. We actually, or he is actually inheriting a government right now that is much better than any predecessor he's had before.
Okay. I mean, I recognize that was the argument that was made during the election, and I would also like to recognize that the American people soundly rejected that argument. We do have American troops in forward locations all over the world.
Not in combat zones.
But they are in hot spots. I mean,
but not in combat zones.
We just had an American soldier die not too long ago in the Middle East.
Correct. And they're protecting our freedom every day.
Trying to fix Joe Biden's $300 million public relations peer for Gaza. I mean, the reality is migration was a disaster. Immigration was a disaster for 3.5 years. and they tried to window dress it for the last 6 months. Inflation was a disaster for all 4 years. The economy is not working for most people. That's why Democrats lost the election, and that's why they're going back to Trump.
Democrats lost the election. Nobody's arguing that. I mean, that's what the argument was 4 years ago when Donald Trump was filing lawsuits and they were raiding the White House. What we are saying, though, is that prices are going down. What I am saying is murder rates.
They're not going down.
They actually are going down.
Inflation is still
plateauing.
It is decreasing in rate, which is the entire goal.
But
of
are
the
prices
Federal
going
Reserve.
down or not? Just to be clear. No, they're not
They
going
are
down.
down from their sky high rates. Yes.
Actually,
Stop.
No.
Let's move on. Next up for
We were just arguing over combat zones. I don't know where we are this morning.
You can argue with
you guys are trying to paint a picture of a country that doesn't exist.
I'm not
understand.
painting anything. I'm painting. Stop talking. That's what I'm painting.
Yeah. So clearly, you can see here that CNN is upset. Their anchors are upset, right? They are just not having a great time dealing with the current reality, which is that Trump won. Okay, and Trump won because Democrats did a bad job. Bakari Sellers is pushing the BS propaganda that, oh, well, Trump is inheriting such a great situation and yada, yada, yada. When I would argue that the Biden administration, they made the situation in this country a lot worse, right? When Biden got into office, he inherited a secure border and he unsecured it. Okay, when Biden got in office, he inherited damn near record low inflation, and he ended up pouring more fuel on the fire with the American Destruction Plan that was passed by Democrats alone in Congress at the time, where they decided to spend trillions of more dollars. These are the things that Biden and the Democrats did, which contributed to the state of the economy, inflation, all the things that people are upset about, right? It was the Democrats' fault. But again, they love playing this game where they don't want to give Trump credit for anything. Notice how the narrative is that, well, Trump's economy before COVID was so great because of Obama. He inherited Obama's economy. He didn't do anything to make it better, even though Trump's economy was much better than Obama's economy. And the reason why is because of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act that was passed by Trump that the liberal media and Democrats like to smear, right? Again, it's amazing how that works. Now, all of a sudden, they're trying to push a narrative that, well, although the last 4 years of Biden was terrible, it's because they had to spend so much time fixing Trump's economy. And due to that, now Trump is inheriting a great economy, a great situation from Joe Biden. The excuses are already coming out for why Trump's presidency will be great. Okay, and they're not trying to give him credit for it. And it's just hilarious, right? It's really hilarious. Everybody can see this narrative coming a mile away. Because it's going to be hard to be Trump deranged when the economy gets better, when the border's more secure, when things change for the better, when the American people feel like, oh yeah, things are great. It's going to be hard for them to come out here and to smear Trump every single day. So now, again, the excuse is that, well, things are only better because the Democrats did it, right? Biden did that. And Trump inherited such a great situation. Again, it's amazing. Absolutely amazing. But hey, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.